Right now, as you're watching this, 450 million Europeans believe their savings are safe in euros. They believe their pensions are secure and that the currency union holding 27 nations together is stable and permanent. They are wrong. And the mechanism that is about to prove them wrong has already destroyed every single monetary union in recorded history. Not most of them. Every single one. Zero exceptions. The European Central Bank's balance sheet stands at a staggering 6.8 trillion euros. That's 43% of the entire Eurozone GDP on just one institution's books. Germany's claims against other Eurozone nations have hit 1.2 trillion euros. Italy's debt to GDP ratio is at 144%. Greece is at 172%. Spain holds 1.5 trillion in bad loans, still festering from 2008. And here's what nobody is telling you. This isn't a crisis waiting to happen. This is stage 3 of a 4-stage wealth transfer that has operated with mathematical precision for over 400 years. It's the same mechanism that destroyed the Latin monetary union, the Austro-Hungarian currency system, and the Bretton Woods arrangement. And right now in 2024, it's playing out in Europe exactly as it has every single time before. This pattern doesn't care about European unity or political idealism. It doesn't care what intellectual framework economists build to explain why this time is different. This time is not different. The mechanism is already in motion. And by the time this becomes obvious to everyone, the wealth transfer will already be complete. There's a 4-stage pattern to every monetary union collapse. Stage 1, multiple nations agree to share a currency to boost trade and economic integration. Everyone celebrates. Transaction costs fall, trade expands, and investment flows freely across borders. It looks like pure genius. Stage 2, the weaker economies in the union start running deficits and piling up debt in the shared currency. The stronger economies finance this through the banking system. And everyone pretends the imbalances don't matter, because we're all in this together. Stage 3, a crisis hits and exposes the fatal flaw. The weaker nations desperately need to devalue their currency to become competitive again, but they can't because they don't control it. The stronger nations refuse to keep funding unlimited deficits. The system fractures. Stage 4, the union either collapses entirely or it morphs into a transfer union, where wealth is systematically drained from the strong economies to the weak ones until the strong either exit or the entire structure implodes. During this process, those holding physical assets and those positioned in strong currencies survive. Those holding debt and bank deposits in the weak currencies get completely wiped out. Let me prove this pattern to you. First, the Latin Monetary Union from 1865 to 1927. France, Belgium, Italy, Switzerland, and later Greece agree to standardize their currencies. The franc, the lira, the drachma, all interchangeable. Cross-border trade explodes. It's hailed as the future of European commerce. Stage 1 complete. Then Italy starts running deficits. The government needs money, so they do what governments always do. They reduce the silver content in their coins while keeping the face value the same. They're debasing the shared currency. By the 1870s, French merchants are refusing Italian coins. Then Greece joins and immediately starts doing the same thing. The system fractures. Stage 3 arrives. The union limps along for decades, but by World War I, it's functionally dead. The wealth transfer already happened. Italian and Greek citizens saw their savings evaporate. The French and Swiss, who held gold and real assets, preserved their wealth. The pattern is verified. Second example, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, 1867 to 1918. A vast economic zone with a shared currency, the krone. For decades, it worked. Vienna was the financial center of Central Europe. Stage 1, perfect. But underneath, the fiscal situations were diverging catastrophically. Then World War I hits. The empire abandons the gold standard and starts printing money to fund the war. By 1918, the currency has lost 84% of its value. When the empire collapses, the wealth held in krone by ordinary citizens evaporates overnight. Anyone who converted to Swiss francs, to gold, or to physical property before the collapse was safe. The pattern executed again. Shared currency, fiscal divergence, debasement, system collapse, and a massive wealth transfer from currency holders to asset holders. We've seen this movie before, and we know exactly how it ends. The only question now is, are you paying attention to the final act? Now, let's look at a third example, the Bretton Woods system from 1944 to 1971. This one is critical because it created the template for the euro. After World War II, the Western world agreed to a kind of monetary union. Every currency was pegged to the US dollar, and the dollar was pegged to gold at $35 an ounce. Member nations could trade their currencies at fixed rates. It wasn't a single currency, but the fixed exchange rates created the same dynamics. For 25 years, it worked brilliantly. Europe and Japan rebuilt. Global trade expanded. The dollar, as the reserve currency, financed American military and economic power. Everyone benefited from stable exchange rates. Stages 1 and 2 were proceeding smoothly, but then America started running enormous deficits. The Vietnam War cost $168 billion. The Great Society social programs added hundreds of billions more. The Cold War military buildup was a constant drain. America was spending far more than it was collecting in taxes. The Federal Reserve kept interest rates low and expanded the money supply. Dollars flooded into foreign central banks. By 1971, there were 3 times more dollars in foreign hands than America had gold to back them up. France, under Charles de Gaulle, saw what was happening first and started demanding gold for their dollars. In 1965, France converted $150 million to gold. Other nations followed. By August 1971, America had only 10,000 metric tons of gold left. Britain requested $3 billion worth of gold be transferred from Fort Knox to New York. That's when President Nixon knew the game was over. On August 15, 1971, he closed the gold window. The Bretton Woods system collapsed. Stage 3 was complete. So what happened next? Within 2 years, floating exchange rates replaced the fixed system. By 1973, the dollar had lost 30% of its value against gold. Anyone holding dollars in 1971 watched their purchasing power get systematically destroyed throughout the 1970s. Inflation hit 13.5% by 1980. Those who moved into gold, real estate, or commodities not only survived, they thrived. Gold went from $35 an ounce in 1971 to $850 by 1980. The wealth transfer was mathematical and merciless. It's the same pattern all over again. A fixed currency system, an anchor nation running unsustainable deficits, the system fracturing when redemption is demanded, and then currency debasement. Every stage, verified. Now let's apply this exact pattern to the Eurozone right now. The euro launched in 1999 with physical notes and coins entering circulation in 2002. Eventually, 20 countries were using the euro. The vision was beautiful. One currency to unite Europe, eliminate exchange rate risk, and create an economic bloc to rival America. Stage 1 was executed flawlessly. Trade within the Eurozone exploded. German exports surged. Southern European nations could borrow at super low German interest rates for the first time in history. But they ignored a huge problem. These nations had vastly different economies. Germany runs trade surpluses and maintains fiscal discipline. Italy runs deficits and has lower productivity. Greece has a massive public sector and systemic tax evasion. Before, Italy could just devalue the lira to stay competitive. Greece could devalue the drachma. But locked into the euro, they couldn't devalue. So what did they do? They borrowed, and borrowed, and borrowed. Then 2008 hit. The global financial crisis exposed everything. Greece's debt was unsustainable. Markets panicked. Bond yields in Greece, Portugal, Ireland, Italy, and Spain spiked. They needed bailouts immediately. Stage 3 had arrived. The European Central Bank and the stronger nations chose bailouts, but with brutal conditions. Greece got massive loans, but in exchange for devastating austerity that shrank its economy by 25%. The Greek people suffered while the bailout money flowed through Greece right back to the German and French banks that made the bad loans. Meanwhile, the ECB started doing something extraordinary: quantitative easing. It began buying government bonds directly, essentially printing money to monetize government debt, the exact thing that destroyed every currency union before it. The ECB's balance sheet exploded from 1.1 trillion euros in 2007 to over 6.8 trillion euros. This created massive imbalances, disguised by an accounting system called Target to 2. Germany is now owed 1.2 trillion euros through this system, money it will likely never see. The Eurozone didn't solve the crisis, they just papered over it with printed money. The weak nations owe money they can't repay in a currency they can't devalue. The strong nations hold claims they can't collect without breaking the union. This is a death spiral that ends in one of two ways. Either the strong nations leave the euro, or the ECB prints unlimited money until the currency itself collapses. And here's the scary part. Most European citizens have no idea this is happening. They think their euros are safe. During the Greek crisis, citizens faced capital controls and bank deposit confiscations. Daily withdrawal limits were just 60 euros. Their life savings were trapped. This pattern will repeat. Italy is next. It has 2.9 trillion euros in debt and an economy that hasn't grown in 20 years. There is no scenario where Italy repays this debt. When the crisis hits, Italian citizens will face the same brutal choice as the Greeks. The mechanism is mathematical, and it's already in motion. You think the European crisis is over? Think again. The real time bomb isn't Greece or Spain anymore, it's France. The Eurozone's second largest economy is running deficits like a southern European nation, with government debt at 97% of GDP and rising. Their pension system is underfunded by trillions, and their banks are massively exposed to Italian and Spanish debt. When Italy's crisis finally hits, and it will, French banks will need bailouts. The French government will have to borrow even more to save them. But who's going to lend to a struggling France at reasonable rates? Nobody. So France will turn to the European Central Bank, the ECB. The ECB will do what it always does, print more money. And the euro in your pocket will be worth less and less. This is the endgame playing out in real time. It puts Germany in an impossible position. Either they agree to unlimited wealth transfers to southern Europe through ECB money printing, or they leave the euro and watch their entire export market collapse. If Germany leaves, the euro implodes overnight. If Germany stays, they accept a slow-motion confiscation of their wealth through inflation. Both paths lead to the same destination: A massive wealth transfer from ordinary Europeans to the well-connected few who positioned themselves before the collapse. So what does this mean for you if you live in Europe or hold euros? It means you're on the wrong side of a 400-year-old financial pattern that has never, ever failed. The euros in your bank account are being systematically devalued to prevent a political meltdown. Your euro-denominated pension is a claim on a currency that will lose purchasing power every single year for the rest of your life. The pattern is crystal clear about what comes next. Weak nations will keep piling on debt. The ECB will keep printing money to buy that debt. Inflation will stay high. Real interest rates will remain negative, punishing anyone who tries to save. The wealth gap will explode as asset prices inflate while your wages stagnate. And then one day, probably during the next recession, the system will face another acute crisis. When that day comes, expect capital controls, expect bank deposit confiscations, expect pension payments to be slashed. Anyone still holding their wealth in euros, in European bank accounts, and European government bonds will watch their life savings evaporate. Meanwhile, those who move their wealth into hard assets like gold, property outside the Eurozone, or currencies backed by commodity exporting nations will preserve their wealth. This isn't a wild prediction. This is simple pattern recognition. The Latin monetary union collapsed because its weak members debased the currency. The Austro-Hungarian monetary union collapsed because the empire printed money to finance its deficits. The Bretton Woods system collapsed because America printed dollars far beyond its gold reserves. The Eurozone is collapsing right now through the exact same mechanism. ECB money printing to finance the deficits of nations that can't devalue their own currency. You might be thinking, but European leaders will never let it collapse. They'll find a solution. That's what people said about every other monetary union right before it fell apart. The financial mathematics don't care about political will. The European debt bomb isn't some future crisis. It's happening right now, hidden by a wall of printed money. The wealth transfer isn't coming. It's already underway. Every day the ECB holds interest rates below inflation. Wealth is transferred from savers to borrowers. Every day the Target 2 imbalances grow. Wealth is transferred from German taxpayers to Southern European governments. This isn't a conspiracy. It's a machine that was built to do exactly this. Holding euros is a choice to be a victim of this machine. The pattern has shown for 400 years that currency unions always collapse, destroying those holding the currency and rewarding those holding real assets. The ECB's massive balance sheet isn't a sign of strength. It's a sign that the final stages are already in motion. The debts of Italy and Greece will not be repaid. They will either be defaulted on or inflated away. Either outcome destroys the purchasing power of the euro. The only question that matters is whether you recognize this pattern clearly enough to protect yourself before the final stage completes. Because it will complete. It always does. Right now, subscribe, because in the next video, I will show you the 3 signals proving the euro reset has already begun, and how to spot them before it is too late.